Hey people, welcome back for another edition of the Jagged Edge. This is Ian here along with Chris.
We have so much to talk about, everybody.
This was a freaking deluge of info. Comic-Con coming.
Christmas came early.
Yeah, all your birthdays and Christmases and presents and all that stuff we got it here. And the unique thing I think about this year's Comic-Con, most of the time, at least from my recent experience, it's one studio. We're talking about a few, real specific releases, but all around the board here, from DC to Marvel to some upcoming series and even Netflix announcements. Holy crap! What a Comic-Con!
Yeah, it's there's a lot of stuff. I called this guy a couple hours ago before recording. I'm sure you can tell I was a little nervous going over all the stuff in my notes. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. How did you do with your notes? Because I knew there was no way it's going to be able to cover everything. So thankfully, we were able to split things, at least some of the biggest things. We were able to split that up, and I think we got a lot of the stuff. I'm sure, unfortunately, there's a couple things that we're leaving behind, but there was no way we'd be able to cover everything anyway. So, but if you're upset about it, you can send all of the hate mail to Ian. He'll be happy to read all that. Before we get into the Comic-Con, though. We did have some horrible news. I don't know if you saw this when it came out last weekend, but it came out just hours, I think, after we had recorded. George Romero passed away last week, and we're gonna have to talk about that real quick. So you know who that is, of course, right?
Right. We had a couple of bad losses this week. I'll mention another one not this week, recently. There's another one that goes along with that. Go on.
George Romero, and the reason I bring this up more than anything is that this is actually a hugely influential creator for me. I've been we don't talk about too much, especially when it comes to The Walking Dead and all that.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Walking Dead fan. I'm a huge zombie fan. I've been a zombie fan ever since I can remember. I remember the first time I watched Night of the Living Dead, the original, and I'm just like, this is so
Classic.
Gloriously bad, but it's great. He great horror creator, great director. And most of his stuff stuck in the B or below movie eras, but that's okay because he still had a lot of great things to say in his movies. Just an awesome creator. I mean, when people talk about The Walking Dead and they talk about the zombies, they're known as the Romero zombies because that's the kind of zombie that they are, and that's how they're. That's how they're seen. So when you say it's a Romero zombie, those who follow zombies essentially know what kind of zombie you're talking about. Just a real shame. He was even still working on another zombie movie. It was supposed to be kind of like Night of the Living Dead mixed in with Fast and the Furious, which of course was going to be a horribly great movie, just like all the others. But he had a lot of commentary in his movies. The first three were great. Day of the Dead, I think, is his best movie. But there's definitely something to be said for the original and Dawn of the Dead as well. But yeah, so someone I can't remember who it was, but there are people who are saying that they're going to pick up where he left off on this last movie, make sure it gets done. But hugely influential creator in my life. So that's just a huge loss. Passed away, I think, finally to cancer. After fighting it for, I believe, decades.
Super sad. Super sad. He'll be missed. I didn't. I was never into the zombie genre, and at least that part of it, like horror, I think, as exclusively. But who could forget these films? I mean, this is some pretty prolific work, and I think when you have somebody that arguably contributed to really building the bedrock foundations of a genre like this, that's big, and it's a really sad loss. We had it didn't have anything to do with film. I know there was another big one recently in music. Chester Bennington from Linkin Park's lead. He very recently died. That was it wasn't due to any long-standing illness, so I think that was a believed suicide, but. It's just like we're still going for. I don't mean to be overly grim, but it's like since 2016, we had some big losses there too. And that's continued on. So
let's not go down that road.
No, we won't. But hey, thanks for all their work. all the contributions, and bless them, rest them. So
someday we'll talk about the pilot episode that no one's ever going to hear. In fact, I think you destroyed all recordings of that, didn't you?
Burned.
So that's why I laugh, only because we took a different approach to things initially, and we got about halfway through the show and we stopped. We're
just like, no, this won't work.
Well, let's talk about that sometime. But that's why I'm giggling a little bit, because talking about this brings that up a little bit. But yeah, so that's a shame. Never good to hear such renowned artists going through a hard time like that. But so we're going to shift gears now. And I do believe the rest of the show, besides your info minute at the end, is going to be dedicated to Comic-Con highlights and news.
Oh, yeah. And I think we've got it's kind of hard to decide what's your favorite thing coming out of this. It's just like, where do you want to focus on? The trailers or like some of the announcements, the reveals? Holy crap.
Well, I think the trailers are a good place to start. I mean, that's the most easily digested part, I think, of Comic-Con are the trailers.
Yeah.
The highlights like that. So I suggested top 3 favorite trailers from Comic-Con. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, hit it.
Okay. All right. So these are top 3 favorite. We will get into detail about these later. Top 3 favorites. Number 3 was Justice League. That was definitely fun. We're going to definitely talk about Justice League later, but that was a fun trailer. I enjoyed it for the most part. There was a couple things that were kind of cringy, but really enjoyed it. Well done trailer. Good to see them in the right direction with that. Fingers crossed that it does really well. Top 3 again. My second one is Stranger Things season 2. Now I think we talked about that briefly. Did we talk about that on air or off air?
Both, I believe. I think you. I know off air more exclusively because you invited me to take a look at it, but you have mentioned it before.
You need to see this. Did you watch this trailer at least?
Yes.
Oh, it's so good. So good. I have no idea, and that'll be actually, now would be a good time to talk about that, I guess, because I don't think we have it slated for later on in the show. From having not seen season 1, and really not knowing in detail what you're looking at, what did you think of that trailer?
I'm kind of vexed. It really wasn't what I thought it was going to be. I mean, everyone talks about Stranger Things on a level of close to Game of Thrones hype. And that's never quite the thing I felt from it. I think this trailer from Comic-Con was called Thriller, right? I have that right.
Yeah,
because,
obviously.
With the whole theme, that was pretty funny. And then we go real old school with what was that? Not Dungeons and Dragons. What was that old school Dragon's Lair? Thank you. So you got the old school like arcade, like buddy cop stuff and that, and then it just changes and gets really dark. So not what I expected.
You're looking at it. You're looking at it outside of context.
I am big time.
But did you like it? I mean, did you at least see that? Is that like something like, oh man, I gotta watch season 1?
Oh, it's cool. I mean, I'll say this: it didn't make me jump out my seat like Voltron. Like, that's freaking awesome. But I'm like, all right, cool. This is worth giving a shot.
Yeah, maybe around Halloween would be a good time for you to get caught up on that. It is great. And at the end of the day, it's a great retro piece. They do the 80s so very well. But it's just a well done miniseries. It was just really good. Like I said, I remember when I saw it, I'm like, oh, what's this? I'll just watch this, and I binged it. Next thing I knew, it was 6 in the morning, and I don't take it back at all, not one little bit. But yeah, so that was number 2. That was nice to see a trailer for them. Number 1 for me, my top favorite trailer was Thor Ragnarok, and we're going to go into detail about that with the MCU section. But this trailer was, I'm not really. And I've sat back several times just hearing information about this movie. We got the teaser trailer not too long ago, and then we got this trailer, and I'm just like, what is it about this that's just tickling me just right? I still can't figure it out. I'm not the hugest fan of Thor to begin with. I thought his first 2 movies were not very good. Even some of the weaker parts of the MCU movies. I don't know if it's the fact that Hulk's there or just what they're doing with this. I can't stop loving what this movie is turning out to be so far.
I think it's the scale, and that's because in the original Thor movies, we're setting up the look at the realm of Asgard, the role of Thor, Loki, everything that happens with the heroes of Norse myth. So it's gone from sort of far off castaway to very near and dear. There's no longer any real separation of how much that universe and those going ons affect everybody else and what's happening. And I think as well, just we're looking at this in the context of the upcoming Infinity War and a lot of huge changes. For goodness sake, one of the biggest things touted, and some of the first footage we saw for this was Thor's hammer being shattered. It's right. Just like, holy crap. And you think about the types of impacts this is going to have. And it was a big deal in the comics. I know I was really excited. We'll talk about it more when we get into it. But seeing the villains confirmed, some of the stuff we talked about earlier, man. So
Right. I just remember when I first heard any news about this movie at all, and they said it was going to be a Thor and Hulk buddy flick.
Yeah.
Doing cosmic traveling throughout the universe. I'm like, God, that sounds trippy as hell, but that sounds about right to me.
Yeah. Pretty much.
I'm looking forward to it. That was my number one trailer. What were your top three?
I like it. I'm going to have to start with number 3 being Bright. From this was actually a Netflix trailer.
Yeah.
But I put this in the. I'll talk about this a little later when we talk about Netflix is showing overall. This was such a strange theme in opening. At first, I really thought we were seeing a redux of like District 9, just with Will Smith and closer base to like the LAPD or something. He's playing as like a cop, like adapting to, but it's not anything near that. The moment I think I thought I had some kind of inkling of figuring that out off the bat, where they go mystical about a powerful artifact that has these crazy potency of granting desires, granting wishes, and
a magic wand.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, but that whole weirdness really makes me want to actually look into that. It was interesting. I don't think this is the first time I've seen, especially Will Smith, involved in like a. You could be wrong. Involved in a Netflix series. I haven't been a Netflix subscriber super long myself.
I think that's true. Well,
yeah,
we'll talk about that. I got more to say about that when we get to Netflix.
Sure, but yeah, normally this is something I'd expect him on like a feature film release, and the very weirdness of this interests me, and what's going to be the overall scope. So that's my number 3. Number 2, Justice League, and we're going to be really similar here. I say that because of the extra details that we got. I was leery a bit before because we couldn't really pin down, okay, what exactly is happening here? Who's exactly is the villain? But now that we know that, and we'll talk about this when we get more into the show, of course, and what he meant for the DC storyline, especially in the comics, was pretty much like a holy crap moment. But no, it's really good. I think seeing some more details for this flesh out. There's no doubt in my mind. I would definitely want to check this out in theaters. I really hope DC continues to plot a course forward and just keep riding that train off the success they've had recently. So.
Did you mean riding that train or writing that train?
Both. I think they need to do both. I really do.
I agree.
Yeah. Oh, man. And I'd have to pick my number 1 indisputably. I'm right there with you. Thor Ragnarok.
It's fun.
It's just fun. And I was excited about this from the earliest announcement about it, and then I was thinking about it more on just the pure epic scale. But we're gonna have all that, plus just this huge fun factor, the humor, the extra comedy to it, and it's just gonna be it's shaping up to be a great ride. I'm loving everything from who we've set up with the antagonist, what's the storyline, everything that's happening in Asgard. It looks killer. So.
Yeah, no, I agree. So, okay, so one of the things I wanted to bring up as well, and I didn't want to do a top 3 for this, but I thought one should be noted. Disappointing trailer from San Diego Comic-Con. Why don't you go ahead with yours, because I'll have to talk about mine for a minute.
As far as disappointment, I'm sure a lot of people won't agree with this, but this is probably due to partially my bias in some of the genre. I wasn't too impressed with Jigsaw. Yeah, there will be. I'm sure there will be plenty of others that will disagree with me about that. So be it. But it's Saw, especially, I feel this has a difficult time making that breach back in. It's sort of like we know this theme, right? I mean, and I don't know, man. It just seems there's only so many ways to get gruesome, grotesque, hunt down predator prey relationship. I can't do it.
So now when we were talking on the phone earlier today, and you said that you were going to bring up some stuff about Jigsaw, I was very shocked because you're not a big horror guy.
I'm not.
So when you brought that up, I'm like, oh my gosh, did he see something he really liked? No.
No, I didn't. No, you did. The answer is no.
You did not.
And
you disliked it so much. It was your most disappointing trailer of Comic-Con.
And hey, I'll be honest. I really try to keep an open mind about this stuff. And I'm saying, hey, if there's something horror related out there, it's just going to blow my socks off at some point. Awesome. I look forward to it. I really hope it can and bring me into that in one way that would make me want to get into the content. But I didn't see it here.
As far as my feelings on it, I was just kind of, all right. I mean, I've seen some of the, what were they called? The Saw movies. I've seen just about all of them in some context, if not completely. They're all right. They came back from I think even the late '90s, even if not the early 2000s, when it was all about the shock factor, and horror had very much lost its way, and Saw was one of the movies that helped it get back to where it needed to be. Or at least kept it viable.
Right.
Some of them were fine. For me, and I don't know enough about the main character, Jigsaw, and all that, but it was always kind of ridiculous. Like, what the? I could have sworn I saw this guy die in the last one.
Right.
And then, I know I saw this guy die in the one after. And it's like he's still around.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as whatever. The same could be said for all the Friday the 13th movies, too.
Right.
So... whatever. I'm okay with it. Definitely didn't hit my most disappointing, but I was okay with it. I'm like, all right, another a reboot. Basically, it's not Saw anymore. Now it's Jigsaw and whatever. But you were just displeased.
Yeah, I was, man. Look, I wanna say something real positive about it. I really do, but I've just not found that one yet. Bring me into horror, so.
Well, and now from the context of what I said earlier about my fandom for zombies and The Walking Dead in general, my most disappointing trailer from San Diego Comic-Con was the Walking Dead Season 8 trailer.
Wow.
This is not so much just because I'm not feeling how you're feeling about your most disappointing. This is basically because the Walking Dead trailers, the ones that usually come out at Comic-Con or come out around this time going into the new season, are usually really fucking good. They're usually just fantastic trailers. This one, no. This was really disappointing. This is a huge letdown, only because they've raised the bar so high. I thought this trailer was okay, but it really didn't. Normally, you will get some kind of narrative throughout the trailer, giving you a feel for how at least the first half of the season is going to go. And I guess they did that, but just not in as good of a way. I mean, there's been some amazing trailers for the upcoming seasons for this, and this one was just basically like a clip, just a highlight reel of some of the action that you're going to see. The narrative just wasn't there. And, I've watched it a few times. Like, well, am I missing something here? I mean, it's fine, but it's not what we've come accustomed to be able to expect. As a huge fan of the series, and I will be till the day they run the last episode, probably long after. This was disappointing. It was like, it's like, all right, Walking Dead trailer, been waiting for this, and then I watched it. It's like, really, what? That okay? And I love Negan. He's one of the best villains ever made. But can we get him to stop talking about the poopy pants now? It's been done. Yeah, it's been done too much now. That was officially too much. And again, that's completely taken out of context. But we're not talking about the context. We're talking about we're looking at the trailers as they are.
Man,
what did you think of it? I'm sure you watched it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
You're not a fan.
I'm not.
Episodes here or there, but
I've sniped a spot of Walking Dead here and there. Indeed. In fact, you were the first person to really introduce me to that. I think if anything, what I find of interest are like the serious moral questions, dilemmas and things you run into in a world like that. And when you start talking about a broken, post-apocalyptic world, I took a peep at that. Honestly, it really didn't hold my attention that long. I'm not there, man. I'm just not into Walking Dead. In the same hand, I think it's treaded ground that is more interesting than base things in the horror genre, Saw, etc. Which is, I think, why in a way it doesn't feel quite as tired as Jigsaw did for me. It's just something, going back there, something I feel like I've seen 160 times. But even still, with Walking Dead, I'm just kind of, my reaction is your reaction that you had to Jigsaw. Just kind of, I mean, I'm really not at liberty to say what's new ground and what's not. What are the big awesome changes? What are the letdowns? I wasn't there for the series. Still haven't been. And really just don't have the kind of introspective on it to, I think, go there. So really just a meh. I just really sort of passed by it.
So I just want, before we leave the topic, because I don't think we're talking about The Walking Dead later on, for those, because this drives me nuts, just because everyone's like, and I'm sure you saw it at the end of the trailer, you see Rick, and he's got the big white beard, and he's got the white hair, and everyone's like, oh my god, he's waking up out of his coma, it was all a dream. No, there's, after All Out War, which is where we ended Season 7 at the beginning of All Out War, and then at the end of All Out War, and since they brought this, it's right there in the trailer, I'll bring it up. And Kirkman has said, no, that's not him waking up from a coma. There's a time jump after the war. There's a time jump anywhere between 2 to 7 years. It's in the comics, and that's what you see. You see an older Rick, and that's what that is. Is that what you thought it was? What do you think that was at the end?
I mean, I really had a hard time telling, but
understand what it was.
Yeah, I have like zero context to base that on, but as far as Walking Dead, and just seeing something as like that was all fabricated, it's all a dream. That's something that never even occurred to me. This is always
a lot of people think that because the show begins with him in a coma.
Interesting, I can see it, but I've always, from what I've seen of this series, it's always been so visceral in such a grounding, just brutally grounded in reality, that I think it seems like plot-wise, they'd have a difficult time taking everything and sort of dismissing it.
Not to mention that there's a spin-off that doesn't follow any of these characters at all, so why would that be? So why would that be someone's dream?
So there you have it.
But yeah, so it's not a coma, that's him just waking up from a time jump. I'm very much looking forward to this. Don't get me wrong, but as far as the trailers go, and as far as what they've given us in the past, this just was the most disappointing thing I saw this weekend. Just because, like, the trailers are usually so great.
Fair enough.
All right.
That means a lot coming from you.
Does that okay?
I mean, I know you're a huge fan. I mean, you haven't exactly written a love letter or anything, but it just means a lot.
I mean, I like the mid-season trailer we got for Fear the Walking Dead, the spinoff, because we're in between the first half and the second half right now. The mid-season trailer I liked more,
right?
For the spinoff show, which has gotten much better this last year. Season 3 is much better. But yeah, so there you go. Favorites and not so much favorites for the trailers. Do we want to just get right into it?
Let's do it.
All right. MCU highlights. There's a lot.
Whew.
There is a lot. I remember after I got all done with all the notes, I'm like, yeah, I don't think I can cut any of this though. I think this is pretty much it.
It's all important. It's all important.
It really is. I mean, these were cliff notes, too, if that. They were more like highlights and summaries. But, yeah, so here we go. MCU highlights. Let's start with the Defenders. We had a new trailer.
Yep.
That was fun. Let's talk about that for a second. What did you think of the new trailer?
It had some ups and downs, had its bumps and goes. But really, it was in a similar vein to the earlier releases we've had. Of again, the way I'm painting this in my mind is miniature Avengers, in its own way. It's sort of what we've constructed over in the Netflix end, and now here's the culmination of that. So cool.
No, we get to see a little bit more. Get to see some Elektra. Depending on which trailer you saw, you even get to see some very small footage of the Punisher. before the actual trailer started. We'll get into that in a second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I thought it was fun. It was a fine trailer, and it really wasn't shocking in one way or the other. It was just like, all right, cool, a little bit more of this. Let's see. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I said a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that.
Yeah, it really wasn't much more. Iron Fist Season 2 was announced.
Yep.
It's kind of funny, because they've already announced Season 3 of Daredevil and Season 2 of Jessica Jones. No announcement for Season 2 of Luke Cage.
Which makes you wonder. Part of me says that the quote-unquote continuation for that is suitable enough to be done in Defenders, whereas with Iron Fist, this is just my complete guess right now, is that there are some larger world questions to be built in that season that to tie maybe back into Defenders and some others, because just if you think about just the scope of Luke Cage and the scope of Iron Fist, that they're slightly different context.
Mm-hmm.
So,
or maybe because they used to Luke Cage and Iron Fist. I mean, they ran their comic ran together. They were the same thing for years.
Yeah.
Maybe we're going to see a lot of Luke Cage in Iron Fist. I don't know.
That too.
I just thought that was a little surprising. There's no Luke Cage Season 2 yet. So let's see. That was announced. We get to see some or let me rephrase. We didn't get to see it. People at San Diego Comic-Con got to see some exclusive Punisher footage from his upcoming season, which the release date has not been announced. I hear it was really, really good. Some stuff about him sniping some people, choking out a guy in a bathroom stall, shooting some people, and then running them over to make sure they're dead. Just typical Punisher stuff. Your average every day is Punisher. But what was important to that, and something that we've talked about and complained about, I don't know, on air, definitely off air, these Netflix shows rarely, if ever, leave New York.
Right.
And it's my understanding that Punisher a lot of the season is going to be a manhunt for all the people responsible for the death of his family. He is going at least cross country. Yeah,
the Punisher announcements really sent me scrambling. Looking for info. I'm like, Punisher where? I mean, I instantly think back to Dirty Laundry. This is, this guy in Blade are two that always sort of seem to be on the fringes, but they're just their presence is something that I think never surprises. I do like that, because anytime they're introduced, they don't feel disruptive into any continuity, whether that's film or whether that's a normal series, and just having some more confirmation here that the Punisher's around and kicking. I like it.
And I got the feeling that it's going to be Daredevil or Punisher, one of these two, that is going to be the big breakthrough. That's going to cross the barrier between the TV and the movies. They're going to be involved in that somehow, and that's obvious for some reason, but also just not just because they're more famous than the rest of the Netflix show leading characters, but just because they're just great. These versions of them are fantastic.
Oh yeah. Can't argue.
Besides that, people there got to watch the first episode of the Defenders.
Right.
Again, another note with that, talking about just some of the things I saw. Some people had explained some of the footage they saw. That there was, at the very beginning, there was Jessica Jones and Iron Fist protecting the Punisher, who I guess, and this certainly happens with his line of work, gets himself a little bit injured from time to time. Mm-hmm. Two of them fighting the Hand, protecting him at the moment. So he's going to be in Defenders as well. I don't know if we've actually ever said that. And we're just starting here, but they get to see all this extra cool stuff, and it makes me so jealous.
Yeah, and that's part of the exclusiveness. I think what makes this arguably one of the biggest, baddest cons around. I think there's a lot of these types of events you can go to, even gaming events, where anything that happened there, you can see it somewhere else, or it'll be reproduced. But this is exclusive stuff, man. There's a lot of show floor only things.
We'll get to see some of that soon, though. Defenders season mini season comes out August 18th, less than 1 month away.
Yeah, it sure does. And soon. Hashtag soon. It's funny. You got to be careful with that soon. As long as you're not doing Square Enix soon, I think you're okay. because that's
Yeah, no joke.
that doesn't mean a thing. There was
Right.
from there there was some another one that we panned a bit earlier on, but that I think you were saying had a better showing. I'd actually have to agree with you. Inhumans.
Yeah. I actually forgotten about this. I'm like, you know what? I bet you there's some new Inhuman stuff they gave.
Yeah.
There was a whole panel, and if you're a big Inhumans fan, you probably loved it. I'm not, but I did want to see what they had. There was a new trailer. It is much better than that initial teaser
Yeah,
trailer,
it is.
but that's not saying much because that initial trailer was really bad. So
Yeah.
this was much better, much more entertaining. Definitely looked a lot better. This is still I'm not going to IMAX for this one. I'm waiting a few weeks till it comes out on TV.
Yeah.
They lost me on that one, I think. Then I'm sure they'll probably come out with something else between now and then as far as another trailer. I don't know what it would have to have in it to win me over to go back into the theater to pay for it.
Yeah.
They're not there yet.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, this is one of those realms where I'm saying, hey, I'm good over on the Luke Cage / Iron Fist / Defender side. For now.
You're not even going to watch this, are you?
Not right now. I don't have any plans to.
There it is. All right. Let's see. They over on the MCU movie side of things, Ant-Man and the Wasp.
Yeah.
I'm so much looking forward to this. I'm a huge Ant-Man fan of the movies. I'm not a big fan of the comic version. It just doesn't translate very well on the written and drawn page as it does in TV and movies. Let's see. Big news for that though is Michelle Pfeiffer is going to be playing Janet Van Dyne, Hank Pym's wife, who had disappeared at some point.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to find her, obviously. Let's see. A lot of footage was shown at the San Diego Comic-Con again exclusively, as well as production art. This comes out, I think, March of 2019.
Cool. Yeah, Ant-Man's one of those. Love the movie. It was great, and just the way they even had a kind of self-effacing way of humor, poking fun of Scale. I love that ending. The train near the end with the train set, the toy stuff. That was just fantastic. But I was interested especially about this note about Hank's wife making a showing. Now, Ant-Man has never been, the family guy, as we'd say. There's always been this history there of a bit of a violent relationship, and I think in his regard being abusive as well. So with her entering back in the picture, especially because she did play such a direct role in his exploits and being a hero, really wondering how it's going to pan out. I think Marvel put a really cool angle on this, the whole story, introducing him to audiences in Ant-Man, and seeing a continuation of that could be awesome. So.
Yeah, no, you're right. And it's kind of it's in some ground that the MCU doesn't really get into.
Yeah.
Too much. I mean, you're talking about some abusive stuff there. Hank Pym was quite the asshole.
Yeah.
In the comics. He's done some pretty horrible stuff, so I wasn't surprised when he wasn't the main character for going into the MCU. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they approach that. I'm fine with it though. I trust the MCU in most part. But yeah, so Ant-Man and the Wasp next year, or not even next year, about a year and a half away now.
Awesome.
Then Captain Marvel. Now we talked a little bit about this. I think it was last week or the week before.
Yeah.
A little bit more news about this. So, Nick Fury was confirmed, and he's going to have both his eyes because apparently this takes place in the mid-90s, mid to late 90s, something like that, or was it early 90s? Somewhere in the 90s, somewhere within the 10-year realm
of the 90s.
Of the 90s, it takes place. Since I went all over, I think I was right. I think it's the early 90s. But yeah, so it's 90s. That's interesting. So that explains a lot because all that speculation we did about Nick Fury coming back and what that means and stuff, well, none of that means anything.
And here we are. And I think the 90s couldn't be a better setting, especially for who the confirmed villains are. We had it mentioned that the Skrulls are going to be president. And oh man, I remember the Skrulls having roles and far-reaching consequences. They spilled over in a lot of the major characters' comics, or you had different Skrull impersonators and all kinds of other things. Before eventually, I think a Super Skrull, one of the Fantastic Four's arch villains, and list goes on and on. Yeah, man. In fact, he was a character in Marvel v. Capcom 3. He had all the Fantastic Four's abilities, basically.
Oh God.
Yeah. So
I don't know.
It's Skrull mania, man. You step into funny territory with that.
Yeah, you do. I obviously a big fan of the comics in the '90s. I read some Skrull stuff. I've got some Avengers Skrull stuff. You can easily jump the shark with them. They need to be careful here. I know they're getting into a lot of cosmic stuff and all that, and obviously Captain Marvel is going to be a big part of that. But just be careful because the water's getting muddy. Well, let me rephrase. The water's not getting muddy yet for the MCU, but it's not as clear. It's not as opaque as it used to be. You're getting a lot more ocean here. You could easily muddy it up and make it a place where people don't want to go by introducing super alien species that can morph into other people, look like other people and stuff. Just be careful.
Save the coral reefs, please.
That's right. A lot of production art seen for this. Everyone said it looked really good. This comes out 2000. Is it 2019? I know it's in between the next two Avengers movies, and we've talked about that.
Yeah. As far as what I've seen, yeah, it's supposed to hit theaters in 2019.
It's a year. Yeah, it's a year out at least.
Yeah.
But in between Avengers 3 and 4. So then we talked about what was obviously one of the highlights for us for this weekend, Thor Ragnarok, coming out November 3rd. This is so cool.
Yeah.
Again, I say it again, I'm not a huge fan of either one of these characters. I mean, I can always appreciate a good Hulk movie or animation or comic if it's done well. They get the Hulk right. For huge fans of the comic, they get the Thor all wrong. But I mean, he's completely different. But the in the MCU is they're getting that right. That's entertaining as hell. Thor Ragnarok. Let's see, what did we get? I know over there they got to see scenes from the movie that we did not, but we all got a new trailer. Something of note is that the Hulk has, in fact, been the Hulk since we last seen him in Avengers Age of Ultron. He has not left the Hulk form. He refuses to go back to the Bruce Banner form. Which, if you've seen the trailer, he obviously does at some point.
Right.
But up until that point, he has stayed as the Hulk, which is something I think a lot of us are wondering about.
It is. And I'm also thinking about this in terms of the light vignettes that are allusions are made towards Planet Hulk. Even though that's not what we're looking at here in the case of this movie, that was a case where Hulk had enough intelligence at that point to, really carve out a vision of what he wanted. Even basic speech, everything like that, and again, it was a full admission of, or surrendering of, whatever you want to call it, to remaining in that form, to fully acknowledging that. We've also seen some Marvel continuity where he's had full scientific level intelligence and just remains in that form. While we have a much more rage-driven Hulk in MCU. Obviously, there's still some contention because you said he does return from that state. That's neat. It kind of makes you think of, okay, why and where is that going, or like what are the things that he still perceives as enough of a threat not to leave that state? So.
Well, I think the interstellar travel and foreign space planets and stuff like that, and all the aliens and being a gladiator, that's plenty of reason. But it
starts it.
Right. It was specifically noted though that it is the Hulk's decision. This isn't, the Hulk and Bruce Banner are of different personalities, but of the same mind, and they do communicate with each other. You see it in the comics all the time. In one fashion or another, they argue and fight with each other over control of what's going on from time to time. And it was noted at the panel that this is the Hulk's decision. It's like I'm not reverting back to puny Banner. So yeah, I mean, and since there's been a couple years, there's all kinds of time in there for them to do whatever they need to do to expand on any of the many things that happens with Planet Hulk. Because there are many things. As in, he gets, at least from the comics, he gets married. He has, I think, at least one kid, or is it two? Yeah, he gets into all kinds of shenanigans. So, that was one of the things that I was concerned about. Was okay, well, so how much of this is going to stick with what they did with the Hulk being, on a different planet and everything like that. So there's that opportunity. That door's left open.
Yeah.
This just, again, I don't really know what else can be said about it. It looks great. It looks entertaining. I hope it doesn't disappoint. This is still a contender for a possible best movie of the year for me.
It definitely.
And that, I say that knowing full well Star Wars comes out a month later. So November 3rd, Thor Ragnarok. Yeah.
Yeah, on one last note on that one, the cool part about this, it's everything that I'd planned for, and it's like there's going to be more on top of it. Honestly, coming into this, for me, it would be epic enough knowing that, hey, are they going to include Surtur and pursue a plot line with that? Awesome, I'm sold. But with everything else they're adding on top of that, sweet. And the shot we did get to see of Surtur, that is amazing. So, big flaming demon for
Right.
But no, great stuff.
So next to last, Black Panther. There's not a lot to add into this for me. I don't know. You're the bigger fan of Black Panther, I think. Why don't you want to take this one?
Yeah, well, I will comment on this first. One thing that's always made me smile on Marvel is that we have premieres of really, really nice cars, from Audis to Bugattis to you name it. In fact, I think the one that Black Panther was plugging in this one, I think that was the new Audi. But anyway, besides having his own nation, being, having absurdly awesome connections in the political realms, financial realms, everything else, we're going to have another post-Civil War story here. And this is cool because with Spider-Man, we got his angle of sort of the fallout, what he did, how his life flowed after those events. And now we're going to see that from Black Panther's perspective, which I think is going to give us a lot more of a business-like, overarching scenario. He's so connected and interconnected with the world and the goings-ons and everything else that's happening everywhere else in his own nation. I think we're going to get to see this in a larger context, not just in what this meant for New York, but what this means for the world, and how perceptions are falling out. This is what I'm really curious about too. One of the biggest things about Civil War was the very perception of the Avengers, of heroes. What's the amount of jurisdiction they need to have? What's the amount of control they do or don't need to have? And at least it seems like from what we've seen, Black Panther's going to get into some of that.
And I just want to note real quick too that I never saw it this way before. You're absolutely right that we're seeing these perspectives as far as Spider-Man and Black Panther. They were the two heroes that were introduced to Civil War as well.
For sure, and I think Marvel's picked a pretty masterful way here of showing that spin that way. I mean, what better way? They've more than earned their right, I think, to hold the Thor, the Iron Man cards and everything, that characters who we've seen things through the eyes of a lot, and give us a chance to kind of back off a minute and say, how are these events affecting some of our most current characters? And I think seeing it through that perspective, super fresh, that's super awesome. We got a look here, I believe, in the trailer. I think it was Ulysses Claw, a.k.a. Claw, Mortal Kombat style, Klaw, is... he's getting a new arm. There was some scenes, of course, in trailers that were only shown at Comic-Con, but we do know that besides this picking up right after Civil War, this could also take place in a few other eras too. So this is cool. I comic-wise, I always like read. I feel I always read Dark Panther a bit after all the origin stuff was out of the way, and all the cool interactions he had with X-Men and others. I'm gonna be totally down for seeing all of his nation's about and what the world's like now. So
something I just realized. Correct me if I'm wrong. There was nothing new about Winter Soldier.
Mm-mm.
Interesting.
Huh. Wonder why.
Well, Claw's getting a new arm. He's getting his claw arm. Why can't Winter Soldier get an arm?
Right, right. You know,
What's up? Give him an arm.
it could be a surprise or whatever. You know, I know by the time Infinity War breaks out, he won't be. But now I can't remember. Was he shown at all, or was he still on ice the whole time? I mean, just not shown. Period.
What, for Infinity War? I haven't seen or heard anything.
Oh, I'm sorry. Not just Infinity War for Black Panther trailer. What was did he?
Oh, I didn't see it there either.
I didn't either. Okay, I'm just making sure I'm not seeing things or I missed something. But okay,
Interesting stuff.
love it.
Yeah. So finally, for MCU, Avengers: Infinity War, the trailer that premiered last week at D23 was shown again. And it has not been released to the public, but Ian and I have seen some really crappy versions of it.
Yeah, some people doing the famous take your cell phone out, record from a really really awkward angle, maybe in the front row at like 30 degrees, leaning back.
Yeah.
But even so, the small snippets we have seen, look, we know this is going to be epic. It's shaping up like that. There was mention of Guardians of the Galaxy crew. Obviously, finally. Meeting up with Iron Man, direct footage of some of the Infinity Gems as well as Thanos. Freaking awesome! Can't wait.
Some Spider-Man thrown in there.
Yep. With Spidey.
You know, it's funny because we were talking about that because you get to see the hair stick up in his arm, like a little Spidey sense going, and that's one of the things we were talking about that we missed from the movie.
Yep.
Where's your Spidey sense? And there it goes. So I'm saying, hey, give us some audio cues if you don't want to do the silly, video cues, visual cues. But hey, they went that route. So cool, whatever. Looking forward to it. I don't want to say too much about it yet.
Same.
Just like that behind the scene things for episode 8. I don't want to say too much because I could have spoiled most of that movie just from what I saw with that footage, and I didn't want to do that. So. I think a lot of this probably could spoil a good bit of that too. But I think that is it. Not that is any small amount of stuff for the MCU.
Yeah, I think before we break down to some of our general notes about Comic-Con, let's take a quick spin through DC. Because
okay.
Yeah,
we're going to go to DC. All right.
Yeah, we had a pretty prolific layout there too. And I do want to take a minute just to pan through that before some of the more general things we got. I think you would call me about this one, and this is something I'd looked into earlier. But Ben Affleck went out of his way to publicly swat down any idea that he's getting off the team, that he won't be part of the Batman films, that he's not going to be involved. He was very direct about this. In fact, he addressed the Matt Reeves directing issue at once as well. We talked about this a lot in the show. At one point, Ben Affleck was directing, went off that. Matt Reeves took that over. And writing, and there was this back and forth, this kind of contentious on and off to the point where we were like, well, what exactly is happening with this? So he's confirmed and said directly, hey, I trust Matt Reeves. I'm going to stay in the bat suit as long as they're going to have me. And
what do you think of that? You know why this came up, right?
Well, I might not have my context right. I was thinking in terms of Justice League.
Rumors. Yeah, there were rumors that came out Friday saying that he was going to be done.
Oh, right. That he's going to be canned. I did read about that. As far as what I think in terms of him being genuine about it,
right. Is it genuine? Do you think he's really going to stick around?
I think here's the thing. I think he's genuine about liking the part Bats. I really do. I think he has passion, motivation about that, or else what would have even been the point of trying to make the efforts he did up front? I don't doubt his validity and how genuine he is with that up front. That being said, though, he sort of leaves the thing about the project as far as staying on open-ended. He acknowledges that, hey, I'll be here as long as they'll have me. That's sort of, I think, putting the rope out there. I think, to me at least, that signals that he is willing and open to just going to other projects. I didn't see that as a staple saying, all right, boom, that's Ben Affleck for the rest of it. I think he's interested in doing that, but the way he talked about it still hinted at a bit of tension. That doesn't seem like that's completely all settled yet, but
so I guess
I feel
part of what I was hearing was that Matt Reeves wants to replace. He wants to replace Ben Affleck. He wants to
Right.
do a different, not as far as him not liking him or thinks he's a bad role for him. He wants to do a trilogy. We talked about that a couple of weeks ago, and he wants a younger Batman.
Right.
I think a lot of problems with this.
Yeah, I mean, and I think that's where some of the very conflict comes in. Is when you have two distinctly different visions of the way a project's going to unfold. And just with the sheer language, Ben's sort of, he's interested, but I think he's sort of at the mercy of the currents here. I think it will be the Reeves / Warner Brothers call what ultimately happens. So I'm not completely basing my stock in it's Ben or bust, and that's it. So.
Well, so what do you feel though? I mean, what do you think would be best? Should they replace him? Should and a lot of people are pointing to, and I'm going to spoil a little something here. A lot of people are pointing to the fact that the Flash movie, which is going to be called Flashpoint, which deals with alternate realities and alternate they're currently having. A lot of people feel that that's going to be where and when they change these things, or at least make him younger, make him de-age, which I guess is something that actually happened in the comics.
It is. You raise an excellent point. Flashpoint was really the kickoff of New 52 for DC. So if you're really going to do that kind of introduction or start talking about alternate or parallels, that would be the time and place to do it. How I feel about Ben being Batman, I got no issues with him being Bats, honestly. Yeah, I know he's gotten a rap for this, but I'm not. I was never on that whole, bash Ben because he's Batman. No, man, it's fine. Like I don't, especially Batman versus Superman. I don't place that squarely on his shoulders. That if Ben Affleck hadn't been in that film, then it would no. I can't say I have a personal issue with him being Bats, but I think the Flashpoint initiative, what they do with that, is really going to tell where things go from here. And that, hey, for all we know, that could well be what Affleck means was as long as they'll have me. Don't know.
I think, here he comes.
Okay.
I'm going to rant a little bit here. I think this is one of the biggest mistakes they could make. Not only just replacing Ben Affleck as Batman, but replacing him under the context of getting a younger person in here so they can do a Batman.
No. I mean,
this is horrible.
Look,
this is horrible.
If you want to talk a younger Bats, I'm saying, it's all speculation. Don't know exactly what they're going to do with, Flashpoint. Let Nightwing do that. Let Robin do it. You really want to pursue that whole young angle? No, look, Bats is half nuts. He has a lot of experience for a reason. And I never come into Batman films expecting like a 25-year-old Batman just falling into his role or just getting used to it. If anything, I've always felt Batman is at his strongest post-origin with some of that experience under his belt. In his 40s or whatever else. I am totally cool with that. In fact, I think it makes for a much more believable character.
And one of the things that I think people are really sick of when it comes to these super famous characters, they're sick of their origin stories. I mean, look at Spider-Man.
Right.
I don't think people have any more of a taste for another Batman origin story
than
they did for Spider-Man.
No. So
here's the thing. Here's the biggest thing for me. There's a lot to this that I don't like, but here's the biggest thing for me. Now, when you start talking about Marvel and DC, the MCU and the DCEU, a lot of people are talking about, well, we do want DC to be different. We don't want it to be just like Marvel. We don't want to see the Marvel, we don't want to see the Marvel storytelling in DC. And you have to look at that in context of overall what they're saying with the different phases or in this world to begin with, and how they're approaching their movies. Now, when you come to the smaller scale, how they're approaching their individual movies, things are going to be similar. You can't help that. But when it comes to the overall narrative on how these worlds are, one of the few things that I really like that DC did with the DCEU that Marvel isn't doing is that you're coming into the DCEU as an established world that has these superheroes and these supervillains to some extent. We came in with Man of Steel, and then we got Suicide Squad, which right there is establishing all these supervillains that are locked up and in prison. There's all this history that we're learning about. And then you really get to see that with Dawn of Justice, Batman v Superman, where you're getting an established Batman. He's a veteran. He's been around for decades. He's doing what he's doing, and he's doing it as much of a pro as anyone could be.
Right.
And whereas the MCU, we started out in the MCU. The MCU was like our world, and it changed and evolved as things were introduced. And we grew with the MCU, whereas we're coming in at a point with the DCEU that is an established world. Do you understand what I mean?
Totally. I mean...
And I think losing that narrative would be the biggest mistake they could make.
Yeah. It's conceding an advantage. I think is essentially the biggest issue that I see with that. And there's really no reason to. As far as why you should, DC has enough work cut out for them, sort of establishing themselves parallel to Marvel anyway. Why give up your aces? Why give up your trump cards? That's a toughie.
Well, and even in the Justice League trailer, Alfred makes that comment about it. Remember when the worst thing we had to worry about were exploding penguins, and
right.
Bruce gives him this look. It's like, yes, that's fun. You've got all this cool backstory we can get into. It's like, just even all that speculation and all that interest came from seeing the Robin suit in that glass case, and with the spray paint on it. It's like, what the hell is that all about? You have a great story to tell here. I'm sure there's dozens of them they can do. Why reset him?
Yeah, it's beyond me.
You don't even need to. You can cast somebody as a younger Batman and just tell the story from a couple decades ago.
Yeah. So we'll see
if Matt Reeves really wants to do that.
We'll see what they actually do. But no, I'm in agreement. There's only so many times you can do an origin story without having to approach that in an inventive way, and to sort of start talking about those events like retroactively. So we'll see.
Right.
We'll see.
We even saw part of his origin story already in Batman v Superman. No one wants to see this.
No, we're good. We've had enough.
I'm really worried about this. Wonder Woman was good, but even then, part of her context, as far as in this world, again, you're in an established world. That's fine. That's great that they told a World War I story, and then they don't connect what she's been doing for the last 100 years, which was a complaint we had. One of the few complaints that we had about that movie, at least as far as it being connected with the DCEU. And again, in the Justice League trailer, you see her fighting crime.
Right.
Where's she been the last 100 years? Why, in Batman v Superman, why did neither Batman nor Superman have any idea who this person was?
Yeah.
If she's been around for the last 100 years, beating up bank robbers.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
No, no.
So they're already really disjointed. But Batman plays a lot of, just the character they built for this universe. He plays a lot of different anchors, and I think to change this would be ridiculous.
Yeah. Stick to your guns, DC. Hold tight.
Do something. Yeah, don't be so damn wishy-washy. You're all over the place. No one's able to respect it.
Yeah, it's about getting settled and sticking on a course and sticking on a direction. I think it's something that served Marvel well. It will serve DC well, I think, to get that type of footing and stay with that footing, more important.
Right. Just do it well. Nobody wants you to change some of this. People want to see the world you want to build. They just want to see you do it well.
Exactly.
Matt Reeves is great, but he's not so great where you change Batman. Sorry, Batman trumps Matt Reeves.
Yeah.
Any day.
Oh man, Ben even said it himself. This best character I had the DC I could have had. So,
right.
Yeah. Cool. Well,
all right. I'm sorry. I went off on my rant. I knew it was going to come up. They should be doing whatever they can do to keep that part of what up until Wonder Woman has been the best part of the DCEU, which is Ben Affleck being Batman and what that brings.
And we'll see some more of that, I think, fold out here in Justice League coming up in November.
November.
Yeah, man. As we talked a little bit about earlier, we did get some more footage. New trailer for this revealed. Especially the villain reveal here was awesome. This is something I was really worried about earlier on, because it was very innocuous. Okay, who's actually the villain? What's happening here? There's kind of like some moth people around, and that could be any number of things. That could be Brainiac's minions or whatever else. But here it's pretty definitive. This is Steppenwolf, and this was a pretty dangerous character, at least in the Earth 2 continuation of DC. Mind you, how significant he was too. Earth 2 Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman were all killed in the battle against this guy and his demonic minions that he was trying to unleash. They ended up... Yeah?
No, I was just saying, was that a young Batman or was that an old Batman? I bet you it was young Batman.
Parallel Batman. Pretty much the same age that Batman we know is. But to be fair, it was really Batman in that arc that triggered the quote-unquote win. I mean, he kind of saved everything at the end. He prevented Steppenwolf's army from advancing, and he really stopped the plan. Wonder Woman and Superman had gotten stomped, beforehand. But yeah, I mean, it was crazy. If I recall right, I forget about Batman's. I think Clark was incinerated, and I know Wonder Woman was impaled. I just ran through. It was pretty crazy. So I mean, power-wise, the guy's no joke. I mean, he's not your C-list jobber by any means. And I'm interested that they're bringing a villain like that was part of a different continuity, sort of into quote-unquote, mainline. We'll see where that goes. Then again, I'm not even going to bother predicting any DC deaths or whatever else. I don't think they're going to try that here as freely in the DCU, because I look in the comics and man, the deaths plural of Wonder Woman, the deaths plural of Superman. I mean, I could go on and on here, but there's so many different iterations and offshoots and different parallel universes that's murky territory. So cool villain. I think he can do a lot as an antagonist story. That's awesome. And also I think this theme of a post-Superman world is going to be explored a lot. That's hinted at in the trailer a bunch. The Justice League themselves talk about it a bit, and it'd be cool to see how they deal with all the incoming threats.
At least up until the end of the movie.
At least up until that. Because... Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You better have that back from the dead mullet. I want to see it.
Who could forget that? That's 90s at its height, man.
How could you forget that?
We also got some more Aquaman footage. A look into this.
Can we forget that?
What? Aquaman or the mullet?
Nah,
I'm never over the mullet in my heart. Don't worry. Didn't Aquaman have a pseudo mullet too?
They all had a mullet at some point.
I thought they did.
I'm sorry. No, tell me about Aquaman. I really didn't catch any of this because I fall asleep for Aquaman. So.
No, straight. See, and I know you guys find it super boring. This is one. I can't say I was ever a huge fan. My dad always tried to get me into this guy when I was coming up, but I always went more towards Marvel. The lead actor for Aquaman, Jason Momoa, is kind of funny. He dropped some spoilers for his own film. This is right near the end of the Justice League panel. There was a fan that asked about something that they saw, and he said, "You know what? I'm used to getting in trouble, so I'm just going to tell you." He said, "That's the Ocean Master's army, and I'm going to be fighting my brother." It turns out that Dolph Lundgren, aka Rocky, if he dies, he dies. He dies. I love it. Has signed on for. It's revealed he's part of the Aquaman movie. He will be playing King Nereus, who will be a direct antagonist to Aquaman, and also direct competitor for his love interest, that is Mira. I know practically zero about Aquaman villains and everything like that. Dolph Lundgren instantly made a lot of things roses for me. I'm very happy about that. I think he's awesome. So it'll be really cool seeing him. But the fact that we've already got the little pseudo spoilers dropped for Justice League and connecting Aquaman shows that DC is trying very hard to build direct continuity between these two, and I think based just off that little snippet alone, they're going to have a really close link. So, some cool details.
Yeah, there you go.
Of course, Wonder Woman 2. There is the official sequel announcement. Believe DC's chief creative officer, Jeff Jones, is that's not Jeff. Sorry. is currently working on the script to this. Patty Jenkins, she's expected to return to direct, but nothing's in stone. After all,
she's holding on for more money.
Yeah, see, she's holding on. She's holding on to that initial signature. She said, "Well, I only signed on for one movie at first, but hey, let's face it, she's had a critical success here. And go for it. You know, you've earned it."
She's gonna want an entire new wardrobe made out of $100 bills.
Maybe some tens for the linings of the pockets, but oh well. Some of the earliest notes in this one says it's going to take place in the 80s, seeing Wonder Woman up against the Soviet Union. Hope not the Soviet woman.
I heard about that. They said that's what's his name's coming back too.
Yeah, and talk about Chris Pine's character, Steve Trevor. Right. I had no idea how the heck that's going to work. In fact,
that's kind of
that feels really awkward. I would need to look back in Comic Continuum to see if there was anything about Steve Trevor's death and return ever. I don't know. If so, maybe they're trying to mirror something that happened there. Either way, from a distance, it feels kind of awkward. I mean,
well, yeah,
he went out. He went out great.
He was incinerated.
Right. I mean,
how they're going to do this. I mean, they took all of her regular cast and they put them in the the 1910s for the sake of the first movie. Which none of them belonged there. They all belonged in other places, but I thought that was a great way to go about it because they're taking more context of these are important characters to her upbringing and coming into the world
right.
as a whole instead. I thought it was fun, but yeah, I mean, you don't have to look. You had something great there with Gal Gadot and Chris Pine. It was awesome chemistry. But you're gonna just cheapen it like a dirty little whore.
Yeah, and it's just don't overuse that. You know,
how are you going to do it? How are you going to do it?
One of the things that builds characters so much, especially coming off of a successful origin story like this, is building on their experiences / failures / losses. Right. And, you know, keeping Chris Pine's character, like Steve Trevor, in that loss category, I think does a lot for Wonder Woman as a character. It's, you know, in everything I've ever read, she's always been so much about moving forward, to continue pressing on, to, you know, continue on that protectorate mission that she always had, and this is weird that interferes with that. So I don't get that.
I've not seen enough creativity from Warner Brothers for the DCEU to trust this move. So right now, it definitely gets a raised eyebrow, and yeah, that kind of sucks because you just kind of cheapened everything now.
Nope, rightfully so. Who knows, though? Things could all be thrown for a tailspin with, as we mentioned earlier, Flashpoint. There are some pretty light details on this at this point. Save all the resets and, you know, script rewrites and everything else this has been going through and starting back from square one. But this is pretty, as we mentioned earlier, this is pretty important. This meant a lot in the comic arc. You know, this was really the official kickoff of New 52. We talked about the potential Batman issue, but this could affect others as well. There are a lot of characters that follow different actions or pursued, you know, different parallel things when Flash was dealing with this alternative universe. So it's interesting. I'm almost looking right now at Flashpoint as like, if we were to say Justice League is sort of like Avengers, quote unquote, that this would be kind of like the Spider-Man post-Avengers, or like what Spider-Man 2 is supposed to be doing for Marvel after all that. So I don't know. That's probably a little too grandiose to prescribe right now, but that's the way I'm seeing it.
I don't know. I'm looking forward to Flash. It's a shame this keeps getting dumped the way that it does, just because out of the DC characters, besides Batman, most of them are godlike, and it's really kind of annoying. But Flash is not, at least not as much. He's fast, but he's fragile.
Right.
And there's a vulnerability to him that I enjoy when looking at the context of the other DC characters. So I'm really looking forward to this. Something that I was hoping was going to be a part of Wonder Woman, not her being practically a god, if not altogether a god. We talked about that, but yeah. So I'm looking forward to this whenever it comes out.
Yep. I don't have a release date for this one yet because it's just pretty speculative, but
it's getting pushed back.
Yeah, there's nowhere to really base it. I mean, let's do a quick count. There was Aquaman, Wonder Woman 2, Flashpoint, also Shazam, Suicide Squad 2, Batgirl, which is going to be a thing, directed by Joss Whedon, and finally,
he's scared about that.
yeah, and finally, the Green Lantern Corps, which I did have a very brief mention about it. Right now, this is sort of slated kind of distant for 2020. But what's interesting about this is not one, not two, but three for the price of one lanterns. In the comic continuums, there was the Hal Jordan and the Stewart lanterns, but also the third one, who was the younger Rayner, who took over once I think it was Stewart's character sort of went out of sorts, and once he turned bad, that was Kyle Rayner. But the fact that they're talking about kind of putting all three of them in some kind of parody, really wondering how that's going to fall out. And fans are asking too, because they said, well, you have Justice League, but where the heck's Green Lantern? I mean, he, besides even the show, the animated series, I mean, Lantern has definitely had his spot at the table as, a Justice League staple. So, of course, at some point, they want to introduce him. Obviously, they tried through the Ryan Reynolds 2011 film. I know Reynolds' ego.
That was supposed to be the kickoff.
That was supposed to be it, right? And they had a huge setback after that. So now here we're taking our second shot at bat with this. So
a little bit of a setback.
Yeah, just a bit, a few years.
I have heard Green Lantern Corps is going to be like a Lethal Weapon as far as buddy cop action flick.
Looking forward to that if they can do that right.
Yeah.
You glanced by something here, Shazam, which has been in production in some form for the last decade now. I don't even think they've officially announced that Shazam is going to be part of the DCEU.
Right.
But ever since they got The Rock to sign on to be Black Adam here in the last year, now they're all like trying to fit this in. It's not. I've been hearing that Black Adam may not even be in this movie anymore.
Seriously?
Yeah, but he's getting his own movie now. So it's going to be Shazam, and then it's supposed to be Black Adam. Whatever. Quit being dirty whores.
Just
some integrity.
Just get on the track. Yeah, right. Same.
I love The Rock. He's great, and he is someone who you would maybe do a little bit of wiggle room to get him in there. But this is whatever. I had to point that out though. Sam's been on the slate for 10 years now.
That's worth it. It's worth it. So man, a lot from Marvel, a lot from DC here, and I really think that brings us to our sort of general notes that kind of tie together with both what we saw from Netflix, but also some of the other trailers that might not have had as much press or that maybe got glanced over a bit. I know you had mentioned. Now I didn't see this one. You mentioned the Ready Player One trailer.
You didn't look at that?
Was that? No, wait. Maybe I did. That was
That's
dystopian.
Steven Spielberg's movie.
That's that dystopian future. Everybody's stacked on top of each other like cordwood. Like all the housing's really cramped and close, but their one escape is like the virtual reality. Yeah, I did. I thought I didn't see it. Okay, the name just wasn't triggering with me for some reason.
This looked crazy. It's Steven Spielberg, so much like, even though I said his name wrong, whatever. Spielberg.
Spielberg. You got it.
Spielberg. I've totally just derailed all of our momentum. That's all right. That guy who's made all those other awesome movies, and also some bad ones. AI, looking at you. Anyways, so no, I'm looking forward to this. I have not read the book. I have no interest in it as far as the book or anything like that. This looks fun. It looks stupid, but it looks fun.
Yeah. It's a good ride, and it sort of reminds me of again the parallel reality entrapment. Ghost in the Shell pokes at this, but I've actually seen this covered in animations a whole lot. Like Dot Hack, the theme was all about that. Heck, you can even probably make some links to Tron, some other stuff. So.
Oh yeah. Oh, Tron. Did we say that? Did we ever bring up they're going to reboot that?
No.
Yeah, they're rebooting it. They're never going to make the third one. They're going to reboot it.
I'll be darned.
Boo.
Dang.
And Legacy wasn't great, but it was worth a third one to wrap up a trilogy. Yeah, I'm disappointed about that.
Huh.
Anyways, new Star Trek Discovery trailer. This still sucks.
Didn't catch me either, man. Hey, and you know how optimistic I am for Star Trek. I'm a big fan. Grew up on the series, especially Next Generation, but not feeling it. Not feeling it yet either. Especially just because that awkward model of the release. Ugh.
You got one of my favorite actresses in there. What's her name? Yeah, my favorite. What's her name?
What's her name?
From The Walking Dead, though I can't think of the name right now. She's a great actress. She was a great presence on that show. I don't care.
Yeah,
there's just so much. It's like they've shined it up so nice, and especially because this is in the old original canon. I want to care more, but it's the fact that they've put it there, but they've just it's like they put too much pizzazz and glitter and crap on. It's like this doesn't look like what I remember.
Right.
I don't want anything to do with this. Garbage.
Speaking of nothing.
Speaking of garbage.
Yeah,
sorry, is that what you said? Speaking of garbage.
Yeah. Speaking of, I was gonna say speaking of things that don't have much to do with Pacific Rim. Look, I thought this was
horrible.
Okay, straight up. I thought this was some kind of like advertisement for some offshoot PC game or something else. Maybe
is that what they were going for? I don't know what they were going
for.
No, and
it wasn't like they're. I think they're actually trying to push a film, but this kind of baffled me when I looked at this after the fact and said, "Wait a minute, you mean the Pacific Rim with the giant mechs that we saw way back? That's what they're pointing a sequel to?" And this was a really awkward way to announce that. Hey, we love giant mechs as much as the next guy, but this...
No. We love giant mechs better and more than
okay, true.
Fact. We've been all about giant mechs for years. This was garbage.
Yeah. Nothing.
This was way too... And it's even got one of my favorite actors right now. What's his name from Star Wars?
You and these what's his names?
I can't remember anyone's name right now, but it's got him, and it's like I knew he was going to be in this too. I'd heard about that, but I'm like, this is horrible. Am I not the audience for this? I guess not. I guess I'm not the audience anymore, even though I love Star Wars and giant robots.
Right. It just felt more like this. Like I said, a game like a Hot Wheels ad or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it was bad. The Gifted though.
Yeah. Here's a bit of a pickup.
Yeah, this was better for me. The last one, just because I'm so salty over the X-Men universe and how bad it is, but this looked better. I was going to watch the trailer for this anyways. They actually named those X-Men though, Thunderbird and what's her name and what's her name.
We're up to 4. Yeah.
It was funny though watching this trailer. It's like Thunderbird, and then what was the other ones? What were the other ones?
It was
Blink. There was Blink, and the one we talked about before when we next released it, this Magneto's kid.
No, I was gonna say Quicksilver, but I don't think that's right.
No, that's not right. No, but it was like Thunderbird, like all these famous X-Men, and then they had Lauren Stockman. And he's the new character that they're introducing with. It's like, well, that's dumb. Give him a name. Give him an X-Men name. Give him a code name, whatever you call it. No, this was fun though. I enjoyed this. I don't know. Maybe I'm not so hating on the X-Men anymore. They certainly haven't won me over, but I know when we first started the show back in January, I was pretty upset with them. I still am, I guess, but. Not that it matters. They're all going to die anyways. Yeah. But
rightfully so.
They're all dead.
Yeah.
Every X-Men's dead. Didn't you know that? Except for those little kids that ran to Canada.
Except for them. And then it begins again. Oh, man.
Yeah. Fox sucks.
Well, and on another uptick, we talked about this one earlier, too. This was on my top 3 trailers. Bright.
Yeah, that was in my special notes. Just because it was not in my top 3, but I saw that. I'm like, this is cool.
Yeah.
And I know I sounded totally fake when I said that, no, but really, like, this is really neat how they're mixing in this fantasy world with at least kind of our world and how that all meshes in together. Noteworthy to the fact that Will Smith is in this. Netflix is making some huge, gigantic steps into becoming very serious when it comes to their movies.
Yes, they are.
First, you had A couple years ago, they made a deal with Adam Sandler. Not such a big deal as far as an A-lister, but when it comes to production and name recognition, that's pretty big. Not really saying anything to the quality of his movies, but definitely some name recognition there. But recently, Brad Pitt had a movie come out that his production company made called War Machine. Came out on Netflix. It wasn't actually a huge hit. I watched it. I thought it was great. Based on true events, the latter years of the Iraq War in Afghanistan. But this looks completely different, obviously. But another huge name, Will Smith, bringing Will Smith in. Yeah, go Netflix.
Yeah. This builds into their larger momentum. I think in general, one thing that I mentioned before the show we were talking about this was I was just really impressed by Netflix's just overall showing. In fact, there was a joke I think by director David Ayer, like in day one, they like most cons, of course, everything's split into large presentation halls, and I think most of the Netflix stuff was presented in Hall H, and he pretty much just redubbed it. This is the Hall of Netflix. And I mean, it was pretty much just announcement after announcement. The ones we just talked about, with Bright and all the others, and then some other people didn't expect. Death Note, live action, that from a different perspective. The Game of Thrones stuff. You had, of course, Stranger Things, season 2. But really, it's cool how Netflix was, I think, able to cut through a lot of the extra DC and Marvel noise. Comic-Con and really kind of hollow out their own section because they got their own model. And that's really impressive. Usually this would fall into factions competing, but they've carved out their niche so much they really don't even need to. So,
oh, you finished before I had a chance to finish looking this up. I believe Netflix obviously doing a lot with Marvel as well. I do believe that they are actually season 3 of Young Justice is coming out on Netflix.
Oh snap!
It's either Netflix or it's Cartoon Network. So I don't know. Talk about something while I look that up. They announced that. At San Diego Comic-Con.
Sick. Yeah. Going over some of the other Netflix footage in general, and some of the other shows that were coming out. I mean, there were a whole bunch here that we're just not going to mention. We won't have time to talk about. I know.
It is Netflix.
It is on that too. Okay, cool. And they were just all kinds of random announcements too. I think what was it? The Stargate Origins and some other stuff like Westworld. I mean, I could go on and on. I mean, but they really what?
I wasn't going to say anything, but Game of Thrones and Westworld are both HBO.
No, I didn't say Game of Thrones. Stargate Origins.
Oh, I thought you said Game of Thrones earlier. Though.
No, but you're right on Westworld.
Oops. Someone will catch us on that.
Oh, they will. No doubt. Not bad. But yeah. This wasn't part of it. You'd mentioned there was another big announcement here. This didn't have any. I don't think it had anything to do with Netflix. The Spawn movie.
Yes, Spawn movie coming out. McFarlane, I believe, he announced this during Comic-Con, but I don't think he announced it at Comic-Con. I think it was on Twitter. Announced that he is going to be working with, where's their name? Blumhouse on I don't think it's a reboot. I don't know what you would call it, but a new Spawn movie based on the comics. Announced for this is what I just said. It says going to be a hard R-rated movie. Blumhouse has recently made some of the best horror movies that you've seen. Very recently, Get Out, but also Split, which came out last year, and at least the first Insidious movie, probably the second, maybe even more. Which I love the Insidious movies. I don't know. We don't talk about that too much. What do you think of that, though?
It's the last time I even thought anything Spawn was in the early 90s. We had that film with Michael Jai White, who, mind you, is an awesome martial artist, and he's released a lot of cool films since. I've never been into Spawn as a character. Really invested a whole bunch. I do think it's cool that Seth MacFarlane is finally executing the direction he's wanted to do. He's wanted to be directly involved in these. I think he needs to. I always thought it was kind of cool that there was hey, here's some kind of continuity sort of outside the Marvel DC thing I'm used to, and he's really got his own jam going. So for some reason I think of Seth MacFarlane, I instantly think of Genndy Tartakovsky, the guy who's behind like Samurai Jack and series like that. He he was kind of disappointed that Jack never got a proper reboot. There was talk of a movie, some other things, and those all got canned. And eventually he just came back and said, all right, you know what, it's cool, I got it. And he directed it. It was like a 12 episode season. It was awesome, and he closed it out. He ended it. Cool. So I am all for creators, original creators, directors getting back involved with their original IP and taking it the direction they want to. I don't think you could ask for a purer path.
Yeah, and I think he was much more involved in the animated series that was on HBO for Spawn. Do you remember that?
Yeah, I do.
That was really good. That movie was complete trash. In fact, didn't half of those, or I know they didn't all, but didn't most of those open up with Todd McFarlane saying something at the beginning of the show?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a fun guy. If you ever seen him in any interviews or anything, people can say and feel what they want as far as like him and Layfield and Jim Lee and their separation from Marvel in the 90s and their pros and cons when it came to the comic business back then. Todd McFarlane's a good guy. He loves to create. He's not the most original creator, that's for sure, but Spawn is definitely at the tippy top for him as far as what his brainchild.
For sure.
I'm glad to see this route. I think maybe going in such a direct horror route may not be the best for Spawn.
Yeah.
Just as the cheesy watered down garbage that we got from the Spawn movie 20-some years ago wasn't the right way to go. I don't know how much interaction he actually had with that movie, though. But I guess we're gonna see.
Yeah, it's tough. I see in my mind's eye, I see Spawn as a kind of like a beefed up Constantine, thematically.
I can see.
Yeah, what it pursues, and I always kind of felt that would be a fun direction to pursue with wherever they went. It's like you don't have to stress the horror element. I mean with the fact of what he's dealing with and the otherworldly things he encounters. I mean that's enough horror in and of itself. I don't think you have to sell that very hard to make that theme.
No, he's a creation of the 90s comic era, which means that he's very overly muscular. And spandex clothes. The cape is really cool and original. The chains are fairly original, but he's very much of the comic book era. Of things being as comic book as they get. Now, do you splash in there a bit of goth? Do you splash in there a bit of horror? Yes, especially when it comes to The Vindicator and a few other things. I don't know if those things should dominate, but I'm not the biggest fan either. I was surprised to hear when I started hearing noise about a Spawn movie again about a year ago that the Spawn comic was still going.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing.
I didn't either.
I thought that was a casualty of the end of the 90s, along with many, many other comic books. So
hardcore.
But yeah, sure. This will be fun. We'll have fun with it. It'll either be great or it'll be a train wreck, and we'll tell you all about it.
Oh man. But hey, that's about all the news we got. That's about all I got. Let's head to the Info Minute. Well, if you're overwhelmed with the sheer volume of all the awesome films we have coming out, just everything from Marvel, everything from DC, Netflix, everything we've talked about, there is a certain film brand you can go back and chill a bit with. Now, I don't know if many of you are familiar with slow cinema. It's really a kind of fringe brand of cinema, but there is a film that finished filming recently. This premieres in London during September. It is called Baba Land. And it is, I repeat, 8 hours of, watching sheep in a field. And it's therapeutic. And, I say I say that with the most sincerity. The idea behind this is produced by a group, I think they're named through Calm.com. And the idea was, there's so much overload and we get so much today through the modern era, why not just take something to completely unplug? Just simplicity at its finest. And literally, the filming process for this was get a film crew sit in the field in Sussex or Essex, England, and record this farmer's sheep. And it's just sheep. It's sheep. It's 8 hours of sheep. So if you're really tired and if you just can't take anything else, Marvel or DC or whatever else, just go watch 8 hours of sheep and go to sleep. Baba Land.
This is dumb. This is dumb.
Yeah.
Where do you come up with some of this stuff? I don't understand. Aren't you supposed to be telling us about somebody racing a shark?
July.
Is there an update on that yet?
I think he did finish. In fact, it was
Right.
it was July. Wait, July 20th. I think was the race, or at least like when they were supposed.
I will talk about how dumb sheep are while you look that up. So what? So okay, 8 hours of sheep. I mean, for a minute there, I got to think about the sheep. I mean, who wants a camera on you, naked, eating, pooping, for 8 hours nonstop? I don't care if they have wool on; they're still naked. Yeah, that's just not right.
No.
I mean, so is this like? Are there different camera angles? Is
Yeah.
there like a wide shot of all the sheep? Is there an up close shot? Do we have to watch sheep pumping? How's what?
No, I mean, there's different angles. I can tell you that much, but
Okay.
no, the results still are not in for Phelps yet.
What? Didn't you say this started a week, like a few days ago? They're still swimming?
Shark Week, man, it's Shark Week.
Oh, okay, so the week just started.
Yeah, from what I can see.
All right.
I will have an
Well,
update soon, but
Riveted about this. Okay, so there you go. Sheep. Throw a sheep in there. I don't know. Throw a sheep in the water. Let shark eat it or something.
or count some and go to sleep.
Yeah. So that is it. How long are we here now for a show? Well, we're at least 90 minutes, right?
Yeah, we're overboard. In fact, that's 90 on the head.
Boom. So next week, Dark Tower.
Yeah. Now we do have the release for that, right? That's the 28th and not August 3rd, right? For some reason, I kept seeing some conflicting release dates for that.
Oh boy. All right. Hold on a second.
Well, that's our plan. We've been taking a look at Dark Tower and Atomic Blonde. We talked about both of them, and I think it looks like Dark Tower is winning out as the next subject of our review. Neither of us. I don't think either of us. You haven't read the book, right? Stephen King?
No.
Same here.
I know the only thing I know about this is that this is where a lot of his different movies worlds converges with the Dark Tower, and that's going to be very similar with the TV show that's going to be coming out as well. That is August 4th.
Okay. So
not next week.
okay. The one
Week
after.
after.
Will be, but
So maybe Atomic Blonde next week, maybe.
maybe, sort of, kinda.
But
Could
it
happen.
does come next week for sure.
It does. So is
Yep, season 3 of Rick and Morty come out next week.
that's right. You are a Rick and Morty fan.
And you would be the biggest fan too if you actually watched it.
Yeah. I saw there was a salty episode that came out when Samurai Jack the final season, like, was in its premiere. It was like a total troll. For some reason they didn't have an episode that night. They did Rick and Morty instead. I watched it, but I was really salty. So, oh well.
You were really salty. You were upset about it. You watched it, brother. I
Yeah.
wanted to watch Samurai Jack.
Yeah, man, I tuned in for Jack. You know, when he goes Rick and Morty. Oh, Rick and Morty. I'll tune in for Rick and Morty. Shoot. I mean, it was still cool, but
Put your saltiness aside. How was it?
it was cool. It was funny. It was funny.
What was it about? What was because I will be able to know if you tell me.
Yeah,
Every
this-
episode's different like that.
This was the one where they were debating whether or not to intervene in a cultural purge that was happening on this planet.
The Purge.
Yeah, purge. And I gotta admit, okay, yeah, that did erase a lot of my salt. That was pretty funny. I came in on the part where they decided to actually intervene, and they pretty much start like an episode of Walking Dead, like just killing like left and right. But no, it was actually a pretty well packed episode. It's pretty funny. So
No, that show's great. You should watch it. Actually, episode 1 has already come out. It came out a long time ago, but the season starts next week. I think the 30th.
okay,
But yeah, so that's it for us. And probably there's maybe 2 people still listening at this point. So thank you for that.
yeah. If you're still here, thank you for being bold true. Thanks for sticking with us. Of course, give us a like, favorite, comment, or subscribe, and you can always email us. That's ksawmedia@gmail.com. Till then, we will catch you soon. of course, that's Dark Tower in a couple weeks from now, and looks like Atomic Blonde being our plate next. So, until then, take it easy, people. Have a good weekend. Thanks for tuning in.
See you later.